Listen closely. The damp, heavy mist of 1047 is pressing against your skin, and the iron-shod boots of the King's Guard are echoing just a few paces behind you. You aren't just a shadow in the fog of 15th century London. You are a soul marked by a secret that could topple a throne. Before the great bell of St. Paul's tolls its next weary note, your life as a free citizen will vanish into the grey haze of the Thames. This is the year of whispers, the year of treason, and tonight, the Tower of London is waiting, not as a palace of splendid halls, but as a silent witness to your arrival. As you breathe in the thick, soot-stained air, the modern world dissolves into a mosaic of flickering tallow candles, and the low, rhythmic groaning of timber-framed houses settling in the cold. The city of London in 1447 doesn't sleep, it watches. Every cobblestone slick with river moisture feels like a heavy heartbeat beneath your feet. You aren't here for the bustling markets or the golden apartments filled with colorful tapestries. You are here because a single lie, whispered in the ear of King Henry VI, has turned the world against you. The atmosphere is heavy, yet there is a strange, quiet peace in the way the fog wraps around the corners of the buildings, blurring the edges of history. Every breath you take is cool and slow, grounding you in a reality made of stone and shadow. You walk slowly, your footsteps muffled by the damp earth and the thick protective layer of the medieval night. There is no rush here. The world moves at the pace of a falling leaf, governed by the tides and the flickering of hearth fires in distant windows. You pass by the darkened storefronts of tailors and mercers, their wooden signs creaking ever so slightly in a breeze you can barely feel. The smells of the city shift as you move, the earthy aroma of wet straw, the faint lingering scent of roasting meats, and the pervasive, grounding presence of the River Thames, which serves as both the city's lifeblood and its sewer. But as you stand there, wrapped in the anonymity of the London mist, the weight of your situation settles over you, as gently as the dew. The court is a place of splendid halls, but its politics are as murky as the river water. You have been accused of conspiring against the crown, a phantom charge born of enemies who fear the truth you carry. The charge is false, a result of whispers in the dark, but in 1447, power speaks louder than innocence. Ahead of you, the fog begins to part, revealing the White Tower rising like a mountain of pale, ancient stone. It has dominated this skyline for nearly 400 years, a fortress that has absorbed the screams and secrets of generations. As you approach the great stone gatehouse, the air grows noticeably colder. The Yeoman Warders stand at the entrance, their distinctive uniforms dark in the moonlight, their faces impassive as they watch the approach of a traitor. These men are specially selected veterans, elite security for a king who lives in constant fear of the shadows. Their job is simple: to ensure that whatever happens within these walls stays within these walls. They do not speak, but their presence is a finality, a boundary between the life you knew and the quiet, sequestered world of the tower. You look up at the massive walls of the fortress. In the moonlight, the stone seems to hum with the energy of the thousands who have passed through these gates before you. Some came as kings to be crowned. Others, like you, came in the dead of night, accused of crimes they did not commit. The tower is a royal palace, home to grand apartments and fine furnishings, but those levels are far above you now. Your path leads downward, away from the colorful tapestries and toward the dark, glistening dungeons that lie beneath the White Tower. Take a deep breath and feel the coolness of the night air fill your lungs one last time before the stone swallows the light. The distant sounds of London, the barking of a dog, the faint shout of a boatman fall away into a profound, suffocating silence. There is only the rhythmic clink of metal as a warder produces a massive iron key. The sound is sharp, a screech of metal that signals the end of your journey through the streets. The gates are heavy oak, reinforced with iron bands and the labor of centuries of kings. They begin to turn on their massive hinges, a low, grounding groan that resonates deep in your chest. inviting you into a world of absolute stillness. As you cross the threshold, the silence of the tower wraps around you like a heavy cloak. The transition is absolute. Behind you lies the city of London, with its narrow streets and timber houses. Before you lies a world of stone, shadow, and the methodical application of statecraft. You are no longer a person of the streets. You are a ward of the crown, a high-profile prisoner held at the pleasure of the king. The heavy gates of the tower are now swinging open for you, leading you away from the noise of the world and into the heart of a dark, ancient silence that waits to absorb your story. The Yeoman Warders begin their escort, their steps perfectly synchronized with the beating of your own heart. You descend worn stone steps, feeling the air grow damp and musty, a mix of mold and the cold sweat of history. The torches in the wall sconces sputter, casting dancing shadows that seem to move with a life of their own. You are entering the Duke of Exeter's daughter, the chamber where the truth is stripped bare. But even here, in the deepening dark, remember that you are merely a witness to this dream of the past. The gates have closed, the world is quiet, and the story is just beginning. Let the weight of the stone ground you, and let the rhythmic echo of the warder's footsteps lull you into a state of deep, unshakable calm. The heavy gates of the tower are now swinging open for you, and the long, slow night of 1447 has truly begun. The heavy oak gates have grown shut behind you, and as the iron bolt slides home with a definitive resonance-filled thud, the chaotic energy of the 15th century London streets simply ceases to exist. You are standing within the outer ward of the Tower of London, a monumental achievement of human engineering that has stood as an immovable mountain of stone for nearly 400 years. Feel the sheer, overwhelming weight of this history pressing down upon the earth, a stability so profound that it seems to anchor the very air around you. The White Tower rises before you, its massive four-tiered turrets etched against the bruised purple of the night sky, a fortress that has watched kings rise and fall while remaining utterly unchanged. There is a strange paradoxical comfort in this permanence. The stone does not shift, it does not judge, and it does not hurry. It simply is. As you begin to walk across the inner courtyard, your eyes are drawn to the figures flanking your path, the Yeoman Warders. Even in the dim, flickering light of the wall torches, their presence is commanding, a living link to the crown's most ancient traditions. They wear distinctive uniforms, reinforced by the heavy wool and intricate embroidery of their office, standing as silent sentinels against the passage of time. Notice the way the light catches the metallic glint of their ceremonial pikes and the heavy brass keys hanging from their belts. They move with a practiced, rhythmic precision, their footsteps echoing against the cobblestones in a steady beat that mimics the slow, calm thrum of a resting heart. There is no aggression in their stance, only a deep, ingrained sense of duty that has been polished by years of loyal service. These men are not mere jailers. They are the elite. To stand where they stand, one must be a specially selected veteran, a soldier who has proven their worth through decades of unwavering loyalty to the English crown. In your modern world, you might think of them as the highest tier of security, individuals with a perfect, unblemished service record, who have been entrusted with the realm's most sensitive burdens. Their true mandate, however, goes beyond simple guarding. They are sworn to ensure that everything that happens within these massive stone walls stays within these walls. They are the keepers of silence, the guardians of the unspoken, and as they escort you deeper into the fortress, their presence provides a strange sense of order. You are part of a regulated process, a historical machine that moves with a detached, professional efficiency. Look closely at the stone walls surrounding you as you pass through the inner ward. They are made of cane stone, brought across the sea from Normandy centuries ago, and they possess a texture that is both rough and strangely soft under the moonlight. These walls have absorbed the heat of 400 summers and the biting frost of 400 winters. They have witnessed royal births, grand coronations, and the quiet, Final whispers of the fallen. As you walk, let your hand brush against the ancient masonry. It is cold, yes, but it is also solid and protective. It is a barrier between you and the uncertainties of the world outside. Within this fortress, the rules of the court politics and the frantic whispers of your enemies cannot reach you. You are sequestered, held in a stasis where the only thing that matters is the present moment and the slow, steady rhythm of your breathing. The tower is a place of dualities, a grand royal palace that hides a darker machinery beneath its feet. Above you, in the higher reaches of the White Tower, are the splendid royal apartments, rooms filled with the scent of dried lavender and the warmth of great hearths. There, colorful tapestries depict scenes of heroic hunts, and fine furnishings offer a level of comfort reserved only for the blood of kings. You can almost imagine the soft flickering of beeswax candles and the quiet rustle of silk in those upper halls. But your escort does not lead you toward the light of the palace. Instead, the warders guide you toward a narrow archway, a transition point where the grandeur of the royal residence begins to fade into the functional, somber architecture of state justice. The air here changes subtly, losing the crispness of the night and taking on a stiller, more concentrated quality. The stone underfoot becomes more worn, smoothed by the passage of thousands of feet that have tread this exact path over the centuries. This is the weight of history, the knowledge that you are following a trajectory that is as old as the kingdom itself. There is no need for fear, for you are merely a witness to this unfolding chronicle. The stone is ancient and solid, a foundation that has never crumbled, and it offers you its stability as you move deeper into the heart of the fortress. You are safe within the architecture of the past, a passenger on a journey that has been mapped out by the generations that came before you. Listen to the silence that now begins to dominate the world. It is not an empty silence, but a heavy, resonant one, filled with the echoes of ancient breaths and the slow, patient shifting of the earth beneath the foundation. As you walk, the warders move like ghosts in their ceremonial dress, their presence a constant, rhythmic assurance that the structure of the world remains intact. You pass by arched doorways that lead to forgotten storerooms, where the air is thick with the scent of old wood and rusted iron. Everything here is slow. Everything here is deliberate. The stones beneath your feet have felt the weight of history for so long that they no longer recognize the concept of haste. As you reach the threshold of the dungeon level, the warders pause for a moment, their torches casting jumping shadows against the low, vaulted ceiling. The transition is palpable. We are leaving the royal apartments and the splendid halls far above, moving away from the world of silk and gold toward the stairs that lead down into the cool, silent depths of the earth. The steps are steep and narrow, spiraling into the darkness with a grace that only age can provide. This is the descent into the center of the tower's mystery, a place where time slows down until it almost stops. Take a final look at the moonlit courtyard before you turn away, feeling the solid, protective embrace of the stone as we begin the slow walk down into the quiet heart of the White Tower. The transition from the moonlit courtyard to the interior of the White Tower is a journey into a different state of being. As you cross the threshold, the worn stone steps begin their spiral descent, curving downward into a world where the laws of the surface no longer apply. With every step you take, the air grows noticeably colder, losing the faint warmth of the London night and replacing it with a deep subterranean chill that seems to emanate from the very heart of the earth. These steps have been smoothed by centuries of passage, hollowed out by the feet of thousands who have walked this path before you, creating a rhythmic, undulating surface that guides your descent. The spiral is tight, forcing a slow and deliberate pace, and as you turn deeper into the tower's core, the sounds of the outside world, the distant bells, the rustle of the wind simply evaporate, replaced by the heavy, echoing thrum of your own heartbeat. The walls around you change as you descend deeper into the dungeon level. The ancient cane stone is no longer dry and silvered by the moon. Here, The walls glisten with a constant, unyielding moisture. Tiny beads of condensation cling to the rough-hewn surfaces, reflecting the light of the torches carried by a warder escort. This torchlight does not provide a steady glow, but rather casts rhythmic, jumping shadows that dance across the glistening stone in a hypnotic display. The shadows stretch and shrink with every flicker of the flame, creating an illusion of movement within the masonry itself. It is a world of high contrast, deep, velvety blacks, and sudden, amber flares that draws your focus inward, away from the vastness of the city, and into the intimate, sequestered reality of the tower's depths. As the passage narrows, the ceiling drops lower, forcing you to duck your head slightly to avoid striking the low, arched stone. Physical space is tightening, wrapping around you like a protective cocoon of history, isolating you from every distraction. In this silence, your senses become heightened, picking up the subtle shifts in the atmosphere. The musty scent of damp earth and ancient mold is ever present, but as you reach the lower levels, a new sensation begins to emerge. A metallic, sickly sweet smell begins to fill the narrow passage, something that makes your stomach clench with an instinctual recognition of a place where the human body is the primary subject of concern. It is the smell of iron, of old copper, and the lingering essence of 1,000 stories that have unfolded within these windowless rooms. Despite the chill and the narrowing walls, there is a strange, profound peace to be found in this isolation. The silence here is not empty. It is thick and heavy, like a velvet blanket wrapping around your shoulders, muffling the anxieties of your past and the uncertainties of your future. In this place, you are entirely removed from the frantic politics of the court and the whispers of your enemies. The thick stone walls serve as a barrier that no scream can penetrate and no rumor can bypass. You are safe within the stillness of the earth, a witness to a process that moves with the slow, inevitable gravity of time itself. Allow yourself to sink into this quietude, letting the rhythmic flicker of the torches and the steady, cool air lull you into a state of deep, unshakable calm. The descent continues, each turn of the spiral taking you further away from the light of the sun and deeper into the architectural memory of England. The stone beneath your feet feels solid and immovable, a foundation that has supported the weight of kings and prisoners alike for nearly 400 years. There is a dignity in this stone, a quiet strength that suggests that your presence here is part of a much larger, much older narrative. You are not lost. You are simply being held in the heart of a fortress that knows how to keep its secrets. The shadows continue their rhythmic dance, and the air remains perfectly still, as if the tower itself is holding its breath, waiting for the next chapter to be written. You find your breathing sensing with the slow pace of the warders, their heavy boots making a dull, grounding thud on the stone that resonates through the floor and into your own feet. There is no haste in their movement, no urgency in their steps. They move with the detached efficiency of men who have performed this ritual countless times, providing a sense of order to the deepening dark. You pass by heavy iron rings set into the walls, their surfaces rusted and smooth, artifacts of a system that values control and precision. Everything you see is a testament to the permanence of the tower, a place where the walls are thick enough to absorb centuries of human experience without ever showing a crack. Ahead of you, the passage finally levels out, opening into a small, vaulted vestibule where the air seems to vibrate with a low, resonant energy. The moisture on the walls here is even more pronounced, reflecting the torchlight in a way that makes the stone look like dark, polished glass. You have reached the end of the descent, the point where the journey into the earth meets the reality of the tower's justice. The stillness here is absolute, a vacuum that separates the world of the living from the world of the record. Ahead stands a heavy wooden door, reinforced with thick iron bands and secured with a massive, intricate lock. It is a formidable barrier, a piece of ancient oak that has stood guard over this chamber for generations. The wood is dark with age, and the iron is pitted with the passage of time, yet it remains as strong as the day it was forged. This door is the final transition, the gate that leads from the journey into the destination. As the warder produces the large iron key, the sound of metal against metal is a sharp, decisive punctuation in the silence, a signal that the door is about to swing open and reveal the heart of the White Tower's mystery. Prepare yourself to enter, moving with the same slow, rhythmic calm that has guided you down every step of the spiral. The heavy iron key turns with a sharp, echoing screech of metal that vibrates through the thick oak of the door and into the very marrow of your bones. As the warder leans his weight into the wood, the door swings inward, revealing a chamber that exists in a state of perpetual twilight. This is a windowless world, a subterranean pocket of reality where the passage of the sun and moon is entirely irrelevant. The only light comes from a few sputtering torches set into iron wall sconces, their flames gasping for air in the still, damp atmosphere. The light they cast is orange and restless, creating a rhythmic pulse of illumination that reveals a room designed specifically to inspire a profound, contemplative dread. The stone walls here are thick and ancient, having absorbed the silence of centuries, yet now they stand in a heavy, expectant stillness. As your eyes adjust to the dancing shadows, the centerpiece of this dark theater comes into focus. Standing in the very center of the room, positioned directly beneath the vaulted stone ceiling, is a rectangular wooden frame that seems to command the space around it. This is the rack, a device so infamous that it has earned a darkly poetic nickname in the English tongue, the Duke of Exeter's daughter. Introduced to the tower in 1420, it has become the silent mistress of this chamber, a witness to the breaking of many who stood exactly where you stand now. The wood of the frame is dark, seasoned by age, and polished by the touch of countless hands, reflecting the torchlight with a dull, somber glow. It stands as a monument to a specific kind of judicial logic, a physical manifestation of the belief that the body holds the key to the soul's secret. Look closely at the craftsmanship of this device, for it is, in its own rhythmic way, a masterpiece of medieval engineering. It consists of a sturdy wooden frame with heavy rollers at both ends, connected to an intricate system of hempen ropes and iron manacles. These manacles, forged with rounded edges to grip the wrists and ankles, are attached to the rollers by thick, braided cords that have been tested against the limits of human endurance. The mechanism is operated by heavy wooden levers, designed to be turned with a slow, methodical precision. There is a haunting beauty in the simplicity of its design, the way the grain of the oak flows along the length of the frame, the way the iron bands are hammered flush against the wood. It is an object of clinical purpose, stripped of any unnecessary ornamentation, existing solely to perform a single, devastating function. This device was not created by a savage mind seeking immediate destruction, but by a sophisticated understanding of human anatomy and the thresholds of pain. It was designed specifically to cause excruciating agony without ending the life of the victim. By turning the rollers, the body is stretched inch by inch, slowly dislocating the joints and straining the muscles until the will begins to fray. It is a slow-motion dismantling of the human form, a process that values the preservation of consciousness above all else, for a dead prisoner can provide no information and offer no confession. The rack is the ultimate tool of coercion, a device that turns the victim's own physical limits into an enemy that cannot be outrun. Despite the purpose of the machinery, there is a strange, soothing quality to the room's absolute stillness. The wood of the rack is old and smooth, its surfaces worn down by time until they feel like polished stone under the flickering torchlight. The room itself feels like a time capsule, a sequestered pocket of history where the air is cool and the shadows move with a slow, hypnotic grace. In this silence, the modern world feels impossibly distant, a dream that has faded into the mist of the Thames. You are held in the protective embrace of the earth, surrounded by walls that are thick enough to muffle every sound of the living city above. Allow yourself to sink into this quietude, letting the rhythmic sputter of the torches and the solid, unchanging presence of the ancient stone lull you into a state of deep, contemplative calm. As you observe the chamber, you notice other instruments lining the walls, each a specialized tool in this laboratory of the human spirit. There are thumb screws, simple metal bars connected by threaded bolts, designed to compress the fingers with a focused intensity. There is the scavenger's daughter, a curious iron frame that compresses the body into a tight, agonizing bowl, the inverse of the rack's stretching embrace. There are manacles suspended from the ceiling for the strapardo, and various irons and pliers whose purposes are best left to the imagination. Every object in this room has a name, a history, and a specific place in the bureaucracy of the tower's justice. They are not instruments of chaos. They are the tools of a regulated legal process that has been refined over centuries. The chamber is designed to work on your mind long before it ever touches your body. The mere sight of these instruments, laid out with such professional care, is meant to dismantle your resistance and convince you that silence is a futile luxury. This psychological theater has a name in the medieval legal code: tertio realize, the real intimidation. It is a calculated part of the questioning, a moment where the weight of the state's power is made visible and tangible. In the flickering orange light, the rack seems to wait with a patient, wooden dignity, a silent observer that has seen the proudest spirits eventually surrender to its inexorable logic. You are not alone in this dark theater of history. Two men stand within the shadows, their presence adding a human dimension to the room's chilling atmosphere. One is Sir John Plett, the lieutenant of the tower, a man of noble standing, responsible for the crown's highest profile guests. He represents the legal authority of the king, the administrative hand that guides the process of justice. Beside him stands a broad-shouldered man with calloused hands and a face made impassive by years of professional duty. This is Master Edward Dalton, the king's official torturer, a man who views his work not as an act of cruelty, but as a skilled craft to be performed with detached efficiency. They wait for you in the quiet, dark center of the White Tower, ready to begin a dialogue that has echoed through these stone walls for 400 years. The silence deepens as they watch you, their eyes reflecting the torchlight with a calm, unhurried intensity. Master Dalton adjusts his tools with a slow, rhythmic clink of metal against wood, a sound that serves as a grounding pulse in the stillness. Sir John exhales slowly, a sound like the rustle of old parchment as he prepares to speak. The room is perfectly still, perfectly quiet, a sanctuary of stone where the secrets of the past are kept in the shadows. Let your breathing slow to match the rhythm of the torches, and let the stability of the tower anchor you in this moment. The story is moving forward, one breath at a time, into the heart of the White Tower's ancient mystery, in the flickering amber-hued silence of the White Tower's depths. Your attention shifts from the cold masonry to the man who truly commands this space. Master Edward Dalton stands with a posture that is neither aggressive nor hurried. Contrary to the terrifying legends whispered in the taverns of London, he is not a savage brute who finds joy in the infliction of agony. Instead, he is a professional, an official of the crown whose position has existed as a stable pillar of the justice system since the early 13th century. He moves with a quiet, practiced dignity, his broad shoulders and calloused hands speaking of a lifetime dedicated to a singular, somber craft. In his world, there is no room for uncontrolled emotion or arbitrary cruelty. He is a technician of the human spirit, a man who understands that his duty is a heavy burden to be carried with detached, clinical efficiency. Watch him as he prepares the chamber. His movements are a study in economy and grace, as he follows procedures and rules that have been refined by centuries of established practice. For Master Dalton, torture in medieval England is not a lawless act of violence, but a highly regulated process within the state's legal machinery. It is a system that, in theory, requires a formal warrant from the Privy Council and is reserved only for the most serious matters of national security. He views himself as a necessary servant of the realm, a specialist called upon to perform a task that others lack the stomach to complete. There's a rhythmic quality to his preparations, the way he checks the tension of the hempen ropes on the rack, the way he organizes his smaller instruments on a wooden table. Each action is deliberate, a testament to a mindset that values order above all else. As he turns his gaze toward you, there is a profound reveal in the stillness of his eyes. Master Dalton does not look at you with anger, nor does he see you as an enemy to be conquered. To him, your body is merely a vessel, a container for the information and confessions deemed vital for the security of the kingdom. You are not a target for his hate. You are the subject of a rigorous examination, a problem to be solved through the methodical application of pressure. This detachment is perhaps the most striking aspect of his character. He does not seek to destroy you, but to break your silence. In his clinical worldview, the pain he inflicts is a tool of statecraft, no different from the quill used by a clerk or the sword carried by a soldier. It is never personal. It is simply his job, performed with the same concentration one might find in a master mason or a skilled weaver. Listen to the sound of his voice as he begins to explain the process that awaits you. It is a steady, rhythmic sound, strangely devoid of any detectable malice or heat. He speaks of the exam rigorosum, the rigorous examination, as if he were discussing the weather or the harvest. His tone is informative, almost educational, as he describes the graduated steps of the procedure. He explains that if satisfactory answers are provided during the initial questioning, there will be no need for the more extreme measures. There's a hypnotic quality to his delivery, a calmness that invites you to lower your guard, even in this place of shadows. He wants you to understand the logic of the system, to realize that cooperation is the only path back to the relief of silence. His words are like the slow, patient dripping of water on stone, constant, inevitable, and impossible to ignore. Let the rhythm of his breathing and the measured pace of his words anchor you. In this moment, the chamber is a time capsule, a place where the frantic pace of the world above has been replaced by the slow, bureaucratic application of suffering. Master Dalton's presence provides a strange kind of stability. He is a man who knows exactly what he must do and how long it will take to achieve it. There is no chaos here, only the predictable unfolding of a centuries-old ritual. As you breathe in the cool, damp air of the White Tower, allow the detached professionalism of the scene to dull the edges of your anxiety. You are a participant in a historical process, a witness to a moment where the individual is weighed against the requirements of the crown. Master Dalton reaches for a small brazier, where coals are beginning to glow with a soft, pulsing orange light. He moves with an unsettling calmness, his shadow stretching long and thin against the glistening stone walls. He does not rush to begin. He understands that the anticipation of what is to come is often more effective than the act itself. He describes the instruments not as threats, but as logical consequences of silence. He explains that the mind often breaks long before the body, and that his role is merely to facilitate that inevitable surrender. Everything about his demeanor is designed to suggest that resistance is not an act of courage, but a failure of reason. He steps toward the table where his smaller tools are laid out in a neat, orderly row. The torchlight glints off the polished metal of the thumb screws and the dark iron bands of the scavenger's daughter. Dalton's hands move with a craftsman's familiarity, lingering for a moment over the different devices, as if considering which one is best suited for the task at hand. There is no hesitation in his touch, only a quiet, professional concentration. The room is perfectly still, the only sound the faint, rhythmic crackle of the torches and the low, steady hum of the tower's ancient heart. He picks up a thumbscrew, a simple device of metal bars and threaded bolts, lifting it with the same casual ease one might use to select a pen or a spoon. He holds it up to the light, inspecting the threads with a keen, practiced eye to ensure they move smoothly. It is a tool for a simple task, a minor instrument in the grand orchestra of the tower's justice. As he turns back toward you, his impassive face illuminated by the flickering amber glow, you realize that the dialogue of the chamber is about to transition from words to action. The professional is ready to begin his work, and the stillness of the White Tower waits to absorb the results of his skilled, methodical craft. The air in the White Tower's depths is perfectly still, a heavy, silent vacuum that seems to hold its breath as the rigorous examination truly begins. There is a profound rhythmic quality to this moment, a stillness so absolute that the flickering of the torches in their iron sconces becomes the primary pulse of the world. Master Dalton moves with a practiced, deliberate grace, his shadow stretching across the damp stone as he approaches the heavy wooden frame of the rack. There is no haste in his hands as he secures the manacles around your wrists and ankles. The iron is cold and smooth, polished by centuries of similar encounters. The transition from the world of words to the mechanical reality of the chamber is marked by a single, resonant sound. The low, grounding creak of a wooden lever being gripped by calloused hands. This is the beginning of a dialogue beyond language, a clinical process where the body is invited to speak through the medium of tension and release. Master Dalton turns the lever just one notch, and the silence of the chamber is punctuated by a sharp, decisive click, the sound of the iron ratchet engaging with the wooden teeth of the roller. It is a small sound, yet it echoes off the glistening, moisture-slicked walls with the weight of centuries. You feel the hempen ropes go taut, the fibers groaning softly as they take up the slack in the stillness. The sensation is not yet one of pain, but of a profound, irresistible pull, a stretching of the self that mirrors the vast, slow history of the tower itself. The wooden frame of the rack, known colloquially as the Duke of Exeter's daughter, seems to hum with a low, vibrational energy, its ancient oak grain absorbing the tension of the moment. The wood is seasoned and dark, reflecting the amber torchlight with a dull, patient glow. Another turn of the lever follows, executed with the detached efficiency of a master craftsman. The second click of the ratchet is louder, more resonant, a grounding pulse in the absolute silence. Now, the joints begin to feel the burden of the state's inquiry. It is a slow-motion dismantling of resistance, a methodical application of physics to the human spirit. You can hear the faint, rhythmic ticking of the torches as they sputter, a soft, repetitive counterpoint to the slow, inevitable tightening of the ropes. Master Dalton watches with a professional, unhurried concentration, his gaze never wavering, his breathing as steady and calm as the ancient stone walls that surround you. The atmosphere in the room is thick with anticipation, yet it remains anchored by the stability of the fortress. In this moment of mounting pressure, a profound reveal settles into the quiet of the chamber. Many who have lain where you lie now, men of high standing, soldiers of great courage, and humble dissenters alike, found their resolve vanishing at the sound of that very first click. Under the inexorable logic of the rack, the boundaries between truth and falsehood begin to blur into the shadow. For most, the overwhelming pressure makes any fantasy more bearable than the reality of the questioning. People have confessed to impossible crimes, to consorting with shadows, and changing their very shapes, simply to find a momentary escape from the relentless language of the rollers. The system understands this. It creates its own reality, manufactured through the calculated application of suffering and the psychological weight of the room. But Master Dalton is a man of strategy, not merely force. He understands that the mind requires a moment of reprieve to truly grasp the weight of what is occurring. With a slow, deliberate movement, he releases the tension on the lever just slightly. Feel the sudden, overwhelming dissolve of the air's pressure as the ropes slacken and the joints are allowed to settle back into their natural alignment. The relief is like a cool wave washing over a parched shore, a profound softening of the world that allows you to breathe deeply again. The silence returns, but it is now a gentler thing, no longer sharp with the immediate bite of anticipation. This is the art of the chamber, the strategic use of release to demonstrate total control over your physical and mental existence. Allow yourself to sink into this moment of profound calm, letting the rhythmic flickering of the amber torchlight soothe the edges of your senses. The wood of the rack is smooth and cool beneath you, a stable foundation in a world of shifting, dancing shadows. Master Dalton steps back into the darkness, his hands resting at his sides, his face remaining an impassive mask of professional duty. He is not in a hurry. He knows that the memory of the tension will continue to work in the silence of the coming hours. Sir John observes from the corner, his presence a quiet, administrative shadow that represents the patient, unyielding authority of King Henry. The tower does not rush its justice. It allows the weight of the stone and the memory of the iron to sink into the soul. The air in the chamber remains cool and damp, carrying the grounding scent of old earth and ancient masonry. As you lie in the stillness, you are merely a witness to this historical process, a passenger in a narrative that has been repeating for 400 years. Every element of this room, from the thickness of the walls to the specific braid of the ropes, is part of a sophisticated understanding of human psychology. The tension has passed for now, leaving only a lingering hum in the muscles and a deep meditative quiet in the mind. You are safe within the architecture of the past, held in a stasis where the only requirement is to exist and to breathe. The silence of the White Tower is your sanctuary, a place where the noise of the world above can never reach. Listen to the rhythmic dripping of water somewhere in the distance, a slow, steady pulse that marks the passage of a time that no longer matters. The torches sputter and gasp, their low hiss the only voice in the room. Master Dalton adjusts his tools with a soft, metallic clink, a sound that is both sharp and comforting in its orderliness. You can feel the coolness of the stone floor through the wood of the rack, a reminder of the massive foundation that supports you. Everything here is solid. Everything here is permanent. The pressures of the world have been stripped away, leaving only the essential truth of your own breathing and the heavy, protective embrace of the tower. Return our guests to their cell, Sir John commands, his voice surprisingly gentle, cutting through the silence like a soft breeze. The warders move forward with their synchronized rhythmic steps, their heavy boots making a dull, comforting thud on the stone floor. The iron manacles are removed with a soft, metallic clink, and for a moment, you feel the lightness of your own limbs as they are freed from the wooden frame. There is no aggression in their handling, only the same detached efficiency that has defined every moment of your journey through the White Tower. You have survived the first dialogue of the rack, and the story is ready to move into a different kind of quiet. Your session ends for now, the mechanical azimar of the rollers and ratchets fading into the day. Back of your memory, you are led back toward the spiral stairs, leaving the orange glow of the chamber for the deeper, cool blues of the underground passages. The transition is smooth and rhythmic, each step taking you further from the instruments of the state and closer to the sanctuary of your own thoughts. The journey through the darkness is a path of restoration, a slow walk that prepares you for the deep, restorative silence that awaits you within the thick, protective stone walls of your cell. Breathe slowly, and let the echoes of the tower guide you back to the stillness of your own heart. The heavy iron-bound door of the interrogation chamber is now a distant memory, replaced by the rhythmic, hollow echo of the warders' boots as they lead you back through the cooling veins of the White Tower. The air grows stiller, losing the metallic tang of the rack and taking on the grounded, ancient scent of undisturbed stone. You are brought to your place of sequestered rest, a small vaulted stone room that from this moment forward becomes your entire world. As the guards withdraw and the lock clicks into place with a heavy final resonance, the silence of the cell wraps around you like a protective shroud. There is no furniture here to distract the mind, only a simple straw pallet laid upon the cold floor and the immense, unyielding thickness of the walls. This is your sanctuary of shadow, a private theater of stone where the only requirement is to let go and breathe. Lay yourself down upon the straw, feeling the rustic texture of the stalks as they settle beneath your weight. The floor beneath is solid, a foundation that has held the weight of centuries, offering you a stability that the outside world could never provide. In this small space, the frantic pace of 15th century politics and the sharp whispers of treason are muffled into insignificance. You are safe within the architecture of the tower, removed from the reach of those who wish you harm. The cell is cool, the temperature a constant, soothing chill that slows the heart and calms the spirit. Here, in the absolute privacy of the stone, you can finally allow the tension of the day to dissolve into the shadows, one breath at a time. High above, near the vaulted ceiling, a single, narrow barred window provides your only connection to the realm of the living. Through this sliver of an opening you can watch a thin, precious slice of the London sky. It is a deep obsidian blue, punctuated by the faint, shimmering light of stars that have watched over the tower since it first rose from the earth. You watch the slow, imperceptible movement of the clouds, their gray edges silvered by a moon you cannot see. This window is a portal to the infinite, a reminder that the world continues its slow, celestial dance far beyond these thick masonry walls. The bars of the window are not a cage, but a frame, focusing your attention on the quiet beauty of the night, inviting you to drift into the vastness of the sky. As the night deepens, a profound reveal begins to emerge from the darkness of the cell. In this windowless, subterranean stasis, time begins to lose all its traditional meaning. There are no clocks here, no appointments to keep, no sun to mark the passage of the hours. The world shrinks to the rhythm of your own pulse and the slow, steady drip of moisture from a distant archway. In this void, your memory becomes your only companion, weaving intricate tapestries of the life you once knew, the warmth of a hearth, the scent of summer rain, the sound of a loved one's voice. These memories are not burdens, but treasures, flickering like candlelight in the vast restorative quiet of the stone. You are the keeper of your own history, safe within a place where the past and the present merge into a single peaceful moment of existence. Close your eyes now and allow the silence of the tower to sharpen your hearing. Far beyond the thick, protective shell of the fortress, you can hear the distant, muffled sounds of London, a city that continues its daily business, unaware of the stillness you have found. You hear the faint, melodic tolling of a church bell, its resonance softened by the damp night air, until it is nothing more than a heartbeat in the distance. Perhaps there is the distant shout of a night watchman, or the low, rhythmic lap of the Thames against the tower's wharf. These sounds do not disturb your rest. They are a lullaby of the living world, a grounding hum that assures you the world is still there, waiting for you to return when the time is right. Let these echoes pull you deeper into the straw, further into the sanctuary of your own mind. Everything in this cell is designed for a profound, solitary peace. The stone is cold to the touch, but it is also honest and unchanging. The straw pallet, though simple, offers a grounding connection to the earth. You are held in a state of grace, a prisoner of time who has found freedom in the absence of distraction. The darkness is not empty. It is full of the potential for rest, a deep and restorative well from which you can drink without limit. Breathe in the still, musty air of the dungeon, feeling it fill your lungs with the weight of history and the promise of a long, dreamless sleep. The tower is your protector tonight, its walls thick enough to guard your dreams from the loudest storms of the world. As you drift on the edge of consciousness, the small stone room seems to expand, the walls receding until you are floating in a vast blue-black sky. The straw beneath you becomes a cloud, soft and weightless, carrying you through the mists of 1447. You are no longer an accused traitor or a prisoner of the state. You are merely a spark of awareness in the great silence of the White Tower. The rhythmic ticking of the city's heart is your guide, a steady pulse that leads you away from the concerns of the flesh and into the infinite peace of the spirit. Sleep is not an escape here. It is a homecoming, a return to the essential stillness from which all things begin. The night is long, and the tower is patient. It has watched over thousands of nights just like this one, providing the same stone-cold comfort to everyone who has ever sought refuge within its depths. Allow yourself to become part of that lineage of rest, a quiet note in the long, somber melody of the fortress. The shadows in the corner move with a slow, hypnotic grace, mimicking the drift of your own thoughts as they lose their sharp edges and fade into the darkness. You are safe. You are held. You are at peace. But even in the deepest sanctuary, the cycle of the world must continue. As the obsidian sky begins to soften into a pale, translucent gray, the first light of a new day touches the bars of your high window. The dawn arrives with no fanfare, a quiet transition from the void of the night to the reality of the morning. With this light comes the sound of heavy footsteps in the corridor, a rhythmic, purposeful tread that signals the end of your solitude. The lock of your cell door groans as the iron bolt is withdrawn, and as the heavy wood swings open, the quiet of the night is broken by a new name that carries a different kind of weight. A name that will take you from the restorative peace of your cell back into the theater of power. Bishop Bonner. The restorative silence of your cell is shattered by the decisive rattle of the iron bolt, and as the heavy door swings wide, the cool blue shadows of your sanctuary are invaded by a flickering, aggressive orange light. You are led once more through the rhythmic, echoing corridors of the White Tower. But this time, the air feels different, heavier, charged with a new and unsettling intensity. You are brought into a chamber on the ground floor, a room that admits actual daylight through its windows, yet feels darker than the deepest dungeon. Standing there, draped in the rich, heavy robes of his office, is the man the common folk call the Devil's Dancing Bear, Bishop Edmund Bonner. His presence brings a different kind of pressure to the tower, an intellectualized cruelty that radiates from his fleshy, impassive face. Unlike the detached, clinical professionalism of Master Dalton, Bonner's energy is personal, a sharp and predatory focus that evaluates you not as a prisoner, but as raw material for his theological and judicial experiments. As you stand before him, your eyes are drawn to the new centerpiece of the room, a device that lacks the mechanical complexity of the rack, but carries a more immediate, visceral threat. It is the burning chair, a formidable iron seat equipped with heavy leather straps for the arms and legs. Beneath the seat lies a compartment filled with charcoal, where the coals are already beginning to pulse with a low rhythmic heat. This is Bonner's favorite instrument, a specialized tool for what he calls stubborn cases. The iron of the chair is dark and cold at the edges, but toward the center, it begins to glow with a dull, ominous red as the fire below is fanned into life. The heat radiating from the device is palpable, a dry and shimmering force that distorts the air and creates a low, constant hum in the stillness of the chamber. In the flickering light of this encounter, a profound and chilling reveal becomes clear. Bishop Bonner is not a man of simple, unthinking violence. He is a scholar of Oxford, a man of profound learning, who has turned his intellect toward the systematic application of pain. He takes a deep, almost academic interest in the breaking of the human spirit, viewing the torture chamber as a laboratory where truth can be distilled through the medium of fire. To him, your resistance is not an act of loyalty or courage, but a theological error to be corrected through the purifying power of the iron chair. He speaks of the Spanish Inquisition with a disturbing admiration, describing their methods of water and fire as if he were discussing a fine work of architecture or a complex piece of all liturgy. In his worldview, the body is merely a temporary vessel that must be broken so the soul can be laid bare before the King and God. Despite the cold fear his presence inspires, there is a strange, hypnotic quality to the chamber's atmosphere. The glow of the coals beneath the chair provides a warm, orange light that bathes the ancient stone walls in a soft. The rhythmic crackle of the fire and the steady, low-pitched drone of Bonner's voice create a sensory experience that is both terrifying and strangely soothing. The heat from the brazier wraps around you like a heavy, unseen cloak, slowing your movements and forcing your breathing into a deep, deliberate pace. You are caught in a stasis of light and shadow, a moment where the world outside has been replaced by the intense, glowing reality of the iron and the fire. Allow yourself to be anchored by this warmth, letting the orange light dull the edges of your panic as you sink into the quiet, patient rhythm of the bishop's theater. Bonner circles you like a predator assessing its prey, his fleshy fingers tapping an impatient rhythm against the silk of his robes. He offers you a choice with a soft, deceptive kindness, a quick execution in exchange for a full confession, or the prolonged attentions of his glowing chair. This is the true power of his method, the manipulation of hope and fear, until the mind can no longer distinguish between the two. The room is perfectly still, the only sound the soft hiss of the charcoal and the heavy, rhythmic ticking of the tower's ancient stone heart. You stand at a crossroads of history, a witness to the moment where intellectual sophistication and extreme cruelty merge into a single, terrifying instrument of the state. The bishop leans closer, his eyes evaluating you with a craftsman's precision, calculating exactly how much heat the iron must hold to reach the truth within your heart. He begins to describe the process of the chair in detail, planting vivid images in your mind that act as his accomplices. He explains how the metal will first grow uncomfortably warm, then unbearable, until the reality of the pain makes the very concept of silence impossible. His voice remains calm, almost pastoral, a steady stream of words that invites you to surrender your will to the inevitable logic of the fire. You are safe within the stillness of this moment, held in a dream of stone and flame, where time has slowed to a crawl. Suddenly, the heavy wooden door of the chamber swings open with a sharp, echoing thud. A messenger, breathless and covered in the dust of the road, enters the room and moves directly to Sir John, whispering urgently into his ear. The bishop pauses, his fleshy hand hovering near the straps of the iron chair, his expression shifting from anticipation to a sharp, frustrated irritation. Sir John's impassive face tightens as he listens to the news, his gaze shifting from the messenger to you with a new, troubled intensity. The low hum of the fire continues, but the atmosphere of the room has been irrevocably altered by this unexpected intrusion. The message is brief, but its impact is absolute. "Prepare the prisoner for transport," Sir John orders, his voice cutting through the warmth of the room like a sudden, icy wind. "We depart for Hampton Court immediately. The king wishes to question this one personally." The bishop's gaze lingers on you for a final, promising moment, a look that says this reprieve is merely a delay, not an end. But for now, the iron chair will remain empty, its dull red glow fading into the shadows as the guards move to seize you for the journey ahead. Your ordeal in the tower has come to a sudden, jarring conclusion, and the road to the king's palace beckons through the morning mist. The heavy atmosphere of Bishop Bonner's chamber, thick with the scent of smoldering charcoal and the dry heat of the iron chair, is suddenly replaced by the crisp, biting air of a London morning. You are led out from the imposing stone shadows of the White Tower, your footsteps echoing one last time against the ancient cobblestones of the fortress courtyard. But instead of the harsh clank of chains leading back to a dungeon, you are escorted toward a covered wagon waiting near the gatehouse. As the guards help your shaking body into the interior, the wooden floorboards groan under your weight, offering a rustic, grounding texture that feels infinitely safer than the cold stone you have inhabited for so long. The canvas covering of the wagon creates a sequestered world of muted light and soft shadows, shielding you from the prying eyes of the city as the journey begins. The departure from the tower is marked by the sudden, rhythmic jolt of the wagon as the horses lean into their harnesses. There is a low wooden creak of the axle, and the steady, metallic jingle of the harness rings a repetitive, melodic symphony of motion that signals your physical escape from the site of your ordeal. As the wagon rumbles through the narrow, twisting streets of London, you can glimpse fragments of ordinary life through the gaps in the canvas. Merchants shouting their wares, the rhythmic thud of a blacksmith's hammer, and the distant laughter of children playing in the fog. These sounds of normalcy seem impossibly distant, like a dream you are only now beginning to remember. The lurching of the carriage is not jarring. It is a swaying, hypnotic cradle that begins to rock the lingering tension from your weary muscles. As the city walls fall behind, the wagon travels southwest, following the winding path of the River Thames. The sound of iron-shod wheels on cobblestones transitions into the soft, hushing crunch of gravel and packed earth as you enter the open road. The air within the wagon changes, losing the musty scent of mold and old masonry, replaced by something so clean it feels like a revelation. A profound reveal settles over you as the first true breeze of the countryside filters through the canvas. The smell of damp grass, the sweetness of blooming wildflowers, and the earthy richness of the riverbanks. It feels like a long-forgotten dream, a sensory reminder that the world is vast, growing, and indifferent to the cruelties of statecraft. This fresh air is a healing balm, filling your lungs and clearing the haze of the tower's dark chamber. Allow yourself to sink into the straw-lined floor of the wagon, letting the steady, rhythmic swaying of the carriage rock you into a deeper state of calm. The world is moving, but you are at rest. The repetitive clop-clop of the horse's hooves on the road creates a grounding pulse, a natural metronome that invites your mind to drift away from the memory of the rack and the thumb screws. Your injuries, the throbbing in your shoulders, and the swelling in your fingers ache with each bump in the road. But the pain is now a dull, distant thrum, manageable within the comforting embrace of the journey. You are suspended in a state of transition, caught between the nightmare of the fortress and the mystery of the palace, held safe by the constant, gentle motion of the wood and leather. The journey continues for several hours, a slow and meditative trek through the English landscape. You pass through small villages where the scent of wood smoke is friendly and domestic, far removed from the predatory fires of the bishop's brazier. The light outside the wagon shifts from the pale gray of dawn to a warm, golden afternoon glow, casting long, peaceful shadows across the interior. The rhythmic creak of the wagon's frame becomes a lullaby, a wooden song of progress that assures you that every mile traveled is a mile further from the shadows of the White Tower. The silence here is not the heavy, suffocating silence of a cell, but the quiet, living stillness of the open fields. As you drift in and out of a light, restorative sleep, the images of your tormentors begin to fade, replaced by the hypnotic texture of the passing world. The devil's dancing bear and the clinical Master Dalton are now merely ghosts in the mist, unable to follow you into the sunlit realm of the king's favor. You are no longer a vessel for information to be broken. You are a passenger in the hands of a higher authority, moving toward a destination that promises at least a change in the nature of your existence. Let the repetitive motion of the carriage dissolve the last sharp edges of your fear, leaving only a soft, melancholic wisdom in its place. The air grows even sweeter as you approach the royal hunting grounds, the scent of ancient oaks and damp ferns filling the carriage. The road becomes smoother, the horses pace more confident, as if they too sense the approaching end of the trek. You are entering a realm of splendor, a place designed for the comfort and pleasure of the crown, far removed from the functional grimness of the London fortress. The transition is nearly complete. The heavy weight of the tower has been replaced by the light, rhythmic pulse of the road. Finally, the wagon slows, the iron-rimmed wheels making a final, resonant crunch on a grand, gravel-lined driveway. The canvas cover is pulled back by a guard, and as the afternoon sun bathes your face in warmth, a new architectural marvel rises before you. The cold gray cane stone of the tower is gone, replaced by the warm, welcoming glow of deep red brick and the intricate soaring chimneys of a masterpiece in progress. The grand walls of Hampton Court Palace finally appear, standing as a monument to wealth, beauty, and a different kind of power. You have arrived at a sanctuary of light, and the Long, rhythmic journey through the countryside has prepared your spirit for the royal audience that awaits within these magnificent halls. The rhythmic swaying of the wagon finally ceases, replaced by the grounded stability of the red brick courtyards of Hampton Court Palace. As you are led through the grand corridors, the atmosphere undergoes a final, miraculous transformation. The air is no longer heavy with the scent of damp stone or the predatory heat of charcoal. Instead, it is light and fragrant, carrying the delicate perfume of dried lavender and the sweet, clean aroma of beeswax candle. The floors beneath your feet are no longer rough-hewn cane stone, but polished wood and fine tiles that muffle your footsteps into a respectful silence. You are moving through a realm of beauty and quietude, a place where the harshness of the tower feels like a fever dream that is rapidly dissolving in the light of day. You are brought to a small private audience chamber, a room that feels more like a scholar's sanctuary than a seat of power. Large, arched windows admit the soft, golden light of the afternoon, casting long, peaceful shadows across the intricate tapestries that line the walls. There are no guards standing over you here, no instruments of iron waiting in the corners. Instead, the room is filled with the quiet presence of books, parchment, and the rhythmic ticking of a nearby clock. In the center of this sanctuary, sitting in a simple carved chair beside a window, is the man who holds the fate of the realm in his hands. King Henry VI observed the king as he looks up from his studies to acknowledge your presence. He is just 26 years old, yet he radiates a quality that is entirely different from the warrior kings of the past. He is thin and scholarly, with a face that reflects a deep internal stillness rather than the forceful aggression of the battlefield. There is a gentle, almost ethereal quality to his movements, a softness that some at court mistake for weakness, but which feels to you like the ultimate form of strength. He does not wear the heavy, imposing robes of state, but a simple, dark gown that speaks of his preference for the quiet life of the mind and the spirit. As the king begins to speak, his voice is soft and clear, a rhythmic sound that carries no edge of threat or interrogation. He asks you about the charges against you, his direct gaze compelling an honesty that the rack could never extract. He listens with a patient, unhurried intensity, nodding occasionally as you recount the events of your arrest and your time within the tower's depths. There is a profound sense of safety in his presence, a feeling that you are finally being heard by a soul that values the truth over the convenient manufactured confessions of the chamber. In this quiet dialogue, a miraculous reveal begins to unfold. The king reveals that he finds the methods used within the tower deeply troubling to his conscience. While his advisors insist on the necessity of such cruelty for the security of the state, Henry himself harbors a religious temperament that recoils from the systematic application of pain. He chooses to rule through mercy rather than fear, believing that a kingdom built on the suffering of its subjects can never truly be at peace. In this moment, the weight of the accusation that has haunted you simply evaporates, replaced by the incredible lightness of royal favor. The king sees not a traitor, but a fellow human being caught in the gears of a system he struggles to control. Allow the soft, sanctuary-like presence of the king to wash away the last lingering shadows of the White Tower. His voice is a soothing melody, a rhythmic assurance that the nightmare is over. You are no longer a prisoner. You are a guest of the crown, held in a state of grace by a man who prefers the prayer book to the sword. The room is perfectly still, the only sound the faint rustle of parchment and the distant, melodic song of a bird in the palace gardens. You are safe within the architecture of mercy, protected by a king whose greatest desire is the spiritual well-being of his people. The king leans back in his chair, his expression thoughtful and serene. He speaks of the heavy burden of kingship and the difficulty of finding the truth in a world filled with whispers and political rivalries. His words are like a cool stream, clearing the dust and soot from your spirit, inviting you to return to the world of the living with a heart that is no longer burdened by fear. You are a witness to a rare moment of historical grace, a reversal of fortune that seems to defy the very logic of the era you inhabit. The air in the chamber is warm and still, carrying the grounding scent of old library dust and fresh ink. As you sit in the presence of Henry VI, let your breathing slow to match the calm, rhythmic pace of the king's own. The tension that has lived in your shoulders and the dread that has occupied your mind are gone, replaced by a profound spiritual peace. You have survived the darkest institutions of the realm, and you have found your salvation in the most unexpected of places, the quiet, scholarly heart of a saintly king. A final decisive transition occurs as a courtier enters the room to confirm a new piece of information. Your main accuser, the man who manufactured the whispers of treason, has himself been exposed and has confessed to his own fabrications. The truth has finally come to light, rising out of the shadows like the sun over the Thames. King offers you a small, gentle smile, a sign that your restoration is complete. You are free to return to your life, your property, and your position, but you carry with you a knowledge of mercy that few will ever truly understand. The door to the chamber opens, not to a cell, but to the bright, open future, as the long night of your ordeal finally gives way to the eternal promise of the dawn. The golden light of Hampton Court eventually fades into the familiar gray mists of London as you return to the life you once knew. But though your property is restored, and your name is cleared, you are no longer the person who first walked those twisting streets. You move through the bustling markets and silent cathedrals of 1047, with a new, quiet weight in your step. A hidden gravity that separates you from the laughter and the unburdened chatter of the crowd. To the world, you are a survivor of a political storm, a merchant who weathered the king's displeasure and emerged into the sun once more. But beneath the fine wool of your tunic, your body carries a map of a journey few can comprehend, a landscape of memory where every shadow holds a story. This psychological distance, this invisible chasm between those who have endured the tower and those who have not, becomes a permanent part of your being. You find yourself standing in a London tavern, watching the flickering fire and listening to the rhythmic clink of ale pots. Yet a part of you is still listening for the screech of a metal key or the heavy, grounding thud of a warder's boot. Certain sounds, the sudden clicking of a wooden ratchet in a weaver's shop, or the sharp clank of metal against metal in a blacksmith's forge, trigger vivid flashes of the chamber, sending a sudden cold rush of blood to your heart. These are not mere memories. They are echoes that inhabit your very skin, a persistent reliving of a trauma that medieval society has no name for. In the quiet hours of the night, when the city is still and the only sound is the low, patient breathing of the earth, a profound reveal settles into your mind. You realize that, while the body possesses a miraculous ability to heal, the swelling in your fingers subsiding, the ache in your shoulders dulling to a faint hum, the mind retains a special, indelible knowledge of human vulnerability. You have seen behind the curtain of civilization. You have felt the raw, naked machinery of power as it touches the bone. This knowledge is a burden, but it is also a form of wisdom, a deep understanding of the fragility of the human spirit and the terrifying capacity for sanctioned cruelty that lies just beneath the surface of an ordered community. Allow these thoughts to drift now, like autumn leaves floating upon the dark surface of the Thames. You are safe in the present, your home is warm, and the doors are securely bolted against the night. These memories, once sharp and jagged as broken glass, are beginning to soften, transforming into distant echoes that fade into the protective mists of the past. The tower is a silhouette on the horizon, a stone monument to a story that has already been told. You are no longer the subject of the examination. You are the keeper of the experience, a witness who has integrated the darkness into a broader, more melancholic peace. Everything in your life now moves with a slower, more deliberate rhythm. You appreciate the simple stability of a wooden chair that does not turn, the comforting weight of a blanket that does not bind, and the profound luxury of a silence that is not interrupted by a questioner's voice. You've learned that truth is a quiet, internal thing, far removed from the loud manufactured confessions of the chamber. This wisdom is your companion, a steady pulse that guides you through the remaining years of your life, with a compassion for the suffering of others that you never knew before. As the years pass, you find a rhythmic solace in the act of documentation. You decide to write it all down, tracing the lines of your journey with a steady quill so that the lessons purchased at such a high cost are never lost to the fog of time. The scratch of the nib on the parchment is a grounding sound, a creative act that transforms the chaos of the past into the order of the record. You write for those who will never see the chamber, and for those who might one day find themselves standing before its heavy oak doors, offering them a testimony that even in the deepest shadow, the spirit remains whole. As your long life draws to its natural close, in the heart of a changing England, you find yourself sitting by a window, looking out toward the distant gray turrets of the tower one last time. The fortress still stands, an immovable mountain of stone that has absorbed the rise and fall of dynasties, while remaining utterly unchanged. You have seen the Lancastrians fall and the Tudors rise, yet the tower remains the central anchor of the city, its chambers still waiting for the next soul to be brought into the dark. But you no longer look upon it with trembling. You look upon it with the detached, clinical clarity of one who has finally stepped outside of the narrative. The history of that chamber, you now understand, is a mirror reflecting the very soul of society, its fears, its contradictions, and its desperate, misguided search for truth through the medium of pain. It tells a story not just of individual victims, but of a civilization that accommodates systematic cruelty in the name of security. You see the logic of the rack as part of a larger, older pattern of human struggle, a rhythmic cycle of power and resistance that spans the centuries. The tower is a place of shadows, but those shadows serve to illuminate the profound importance of mercy, justice, and the inviolable dignity of the individual. In this final, peaceful stasis, the true horror of the experience has vanished, leaving only an instructive, resonant silence. The screams that once echoed off the damp stone walls have joined a ghostly, universal chorus that eventually fades into the stillness of the earth. The instruments of pain are merely wood and iron, artifacts of a past that is slowly being rewritten by the passage of time. You are a passenger on the ultimate journey now, drifting toward a horizon where the distinctions between prisoner and king, truth and whisper, finally dissolve into the infinite. Sleep now, knowing that the long journey is over and you have finally found your way home. The weight of the stone has been lifted, the tension of the ropes has been released, and the heat of the fire has cooled into a soft, protective amber. You are safe within the sanctuary of this moment, held in the cradle of history as it prepares to turn the page. The world outside continues its slow, celestial dance, but you are at rest, a spark of awareness returning to the deep, unshakable calm of the great silence. Breathe slowly and deeply, letting the rhythmic pulse of the night anchor you in this final piece. You are no longer the accused, you are the exonerated, the survivor, the witness who has seen the darkness and found the light. The story is complete, the cycle is closed, and the path is clear. Listen to the bells of London, their deep, resonant tolling, reaching across the years to find you one last time. They ring for the city, for the river, and for you the same steady, grounding bells that first greeted you when you woke up in 1447, calling you back to the beginning of the dream as you drift away into a deep, dreamless sleep.